Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is FMJ. Welcome back to a brand new video. Now, I know it's been a while since I've been posting. I think my last post was sometime in June, near the end of Season 3. Lately, I've kind of haven't really been playing the game that much. I haven't really been playing Season 4 as much as I'd like. I've really just kind of been waiting for Dragonflight to launch, or me getting some alpha access for it would be cool as well. I believe it was yesterday I had a little bit of an opportunity to read some forums based off of the Monk talent trees, kind of look at it myself. Overall, I think the Monk talent tree is pretty solid. I think at least the base class one is like an 8 out of 10, and then the Windwalker one is probably a solid 8.5, 9. There's some really weird talent placements that I'm going to be talking about in this video, and just some areas that they could improve on. Now, obviously, as you can see, it's not necessarily finished. There's still a under construction thing at the bottom of the Monk class one, and then there's also one sitting deep in the Windwalker tree. So I'm kind of just going to build out a Mythic Plus one. Obviously, depending on tuning, this could change a lot, and depending on how they move the talents around, this could also change. But to start off, we get Rising Sun Kick, and then we're obviously going to take the damage reduction, and then Tiger's Lust. Paralysis is going to be necessary. Increased paralysis would be great. Disabled isn't really required because a lot of other classes have slows. I think this is kind of a wasted point. Detox, you will probably take this in most situations. You also kind of need it to get the damage increase anyways, but you could change Detox and Disable interchangeably. And then at this point, you're still missing some, and you're going to do Vivify because Chi Wave and Chi Burst are kind of locked behind that, which is something that I don't really like. So we'll just go through that. Transcendence is obviously required. You're going to need your Interrupt. Fort Brew is super important. And then the increased Fort Brew is super nice. You either get a 2-minute CD reduction or a 15%, well, it's a 25%, I guess, dodge and armor increase. I think the reduced CD is pretty helpful, especially during boss fights and just kind of overall survivability throughout the key. Expel Harm is obviously baseline. You're going to want that. You'll take Chi Burst for Mythic Plus, Chi Wave for most single target fights, I believe. And then you don't really need the improved Taunt. Ring of Peace is super useful. Eye of the Tiger is great. And then you get both Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic, which is pretty cool. And then something else that's really useful is this Avoidance here. This is essentially a raid buff. You and your allies within blank yards have 4% avoidance. That's really useful. I mean, you're essentially bringing a raid buff now. So Monk kind of has a little bit more value in raids itself, and obviously the avoidance is super helpful in any Mythic Plus key at a high level. And then at this point, you kind of just need to work your way down to getting Resonant Fist and whatever the under construction is. So at this point, you know, Escape from Reality is pretty cool from a mobility sense, but if you want the most damage build, you're going to do Fatal Touch, Resonant Fist, and then whatever under construction is. Now this tree right here gives you the most output in terms of damage. The thing I missed up here is Rising Sun Kick and Spin Crane Kick damage. That's really important. So at this point, this tree is the most damage output that you will get. And you still have 1 point spare. You can literally put that anywhere. You could get the immune to roots and snares from Rollout. You could also do Celerity or Chi Torpedo. And what else? You could also just get Disable. You could get the Taunt increase. You could get Escape from Reality. There's a lot of options. For my purposes, I'd probably just do Celerity. Having more rolls and a shorter CD on that, it's pretty cool. I don't really like Chi Torpedo at all. The one thing that I don't like about this is how the second charge of roll that is normally baseline is now locked behind Soothing Mist. So just to get something that was baseline, you have to do 2 points over here, which is kinda dumb in my opinion. It also doesn't really make sense that Chi Burst is on the left side of the talent tree, or Chi Wave and Chi Burst. But overall, this is kind of going to be the baseline build if you're playing Mythic Plus. You can kind of swap things out interchangeably, but for the most part, this will be the same regardless. There are some situations where you could take Black Ox statue depending on the week. So for example, if it's a necrotic week and your tank doesn't really have a way to drop their stacks, this could be pretty useful. But then again, who knows what this under construction is? There's a lot of leaks concerning a Zuen statue. There's an updated model that was found a couple days ago as well, which kind of supports that. I'm not really sure if I like that, because that's just another thing that we have to manage, and statues can kind of be annoying to manage at times, especially when you're in a dungeon and you're moving constantly. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the monk base talent tree, which overall it's pretty solid. I would move a couple things around, especially this roll and this Chi Burst, but overall not bad. I'm pretty happy with this. Compared to most other classes and their talent trees, this is definitely one of the stronger ones. Okay, so moving over to Windwalker tree. Fist of Fury. Ascension is obviously going to be really good. Touch of Karma, you're going to need the spinning crane kick, radius increase just to get Mark of the Crane. I don't necessarily like this placement per se. I think if anything, Mark of the Crane should be here, and then you could probably put Dance of Chi-Ji here, and then Feathers of 100 Flocks somewhere over on the left side, maybe above Rushing Jade Wind. I don't really necessarily like the placement of this, but so yeah, next up you're gonna want to get Flashing Fist for the damage increase, Gale Burst, and then obviously you're always going to pick Storm, Earth, and Fire, even though everybody hates this ability. Yeah, I don't know why this is even a thing. I think Serenity could have been a capstone down here, which would have been a little bit cooler to see, but get what you get. Alright, and then next up, you're going to want to do Drinking Horn cover. This kind of just extends Storm, Earth, and Fire based off the chi you spend, and you're obviously going to need that to get Invoke Zuen. At this point, you could do kind of a million different things, right? Hit Scheme is something that came from Torghast power, and then Shadowboxing Treads is also a Torghast power. Now, long run wise, I'd probably say Shadowboxing Treads is better, simply because you have access to Rushing Jade Wind, and then obviously Dance of Chi-Ji. The one thing that I hope they address is how undertuned Rushing Jade Wind is. If they can kind of fix the damage value of that and make it a useful ability to have, then I would say you probably put a point here. And then at this point you're at 14, you need 20 to get down. The unfortunate thing is your Strike of the Windlord, which is your artifact ability, and Thunder Fist is locked behind Jade Ignition, which for the most part was pretty undertuned. And another thing that kind of sucks about this is, you know, having to manage even more stacks. Like if you add up all the stacks and the things that you have to track at the end of this, it's kind of a lot. This also means the skill cap would be pretty high if you're actually paying attention to this. But I think for the most part, with this many things that you have to track, I believe in the long run you'll just play your class normally, and if something good happens, something good happens. I think it's kind of ridiculous that we'd have to manage that many stacks. Then again, some people like playing like that, so can't knock it out. So obviously we'll go Glory Dawn, Jade Ignition, Strike of the Thunderlord, and then Thunder Fist. At this point, you have two. I don't think Hit Scheme's the move. You don't really need the max energy. I don't think we'll ever be capping out energy, especially with this playstyle, so I think this is kind of a dead talent. You could see this in Raid maybe, but I don't think you'll need it in Mythic Plus. So obviously, probably take the increased Touch of Death at this point, and then you can either do another Touch of Death increase, Spiritual Focus, or Teachings of the Monastery. Teaching to the Monastery was actually a Mistweaver legendary that was used the entire expansion in Shadowlands, but they kind of rolled it over to Windwalker as well. This just gives you an increased chance for your Blackout Kick to hit again, and then it also has a chance to reset Rising Sun Kick. This would be pretty good in single target, but I'm not necessarily sure if this is something you would need in Mythic Plus, which is why I would lean more towards Spiritual Focus or the increased Touch of Death. It is pretty set in stone depending on tuning. It's going to be very, very similar to how you played Windwalker Monk in Season 3 and Season 4 of Shadowlands. So obviously you take the Spinning Crane increase, Bone Dust Brew, Calculated Strikes, which was our Conduit. Now obviously, as you can see, it only says 10%. I think our Conduit right now is 14, 16. It's been a while since I played, but the percent's definitely higher than 10 in-game at the moment. But this would still be really good. And then you take Attenuation, which is just a chance to kind of reduce the cooldown of Bone Dust Brew, which is pretty cool, and it does increase damage. At this point, you're sitting at 25 out of 30. Obviously, you're going to take Improved Tiger. And then from here, you want to take Whirling Dragon Punch, obviously. And now you're at 3 left. These 3 are pretty set in stone, I would say. I don't think these are going to change that much. You want to get Invoker's Delight, so you're kind of forced between Zuen's Battle Gear or Transfer the Power. And I think overall, Transfer the Power is going to be a better choice, even though this is another stacking buff that you're going to have to deal with. And then from there, Invoker's Delight. And at this point, you have 1 talent left. And, you know, we don't really know how scaling is going to work or how things are going to be tuned. We don't even know what this not yet implemented talent is. This could be something super crazy where you would literally be forced to take Zuen's Bond and then go down there. It all really just depends on what comes out. And then the right side is just the Night Phase stuff. And then for some reason, Last Emperor's is stuck in the bottom right corner. And I don't know, it's kind of weird that it's locked behind this. And it's just not really fun to use. I don't know. I definitely think the Night Phase stuff should have been replaced with the Kyrian ability. I think that would have been a lot more fun. It would kind of make sense since this is the single target side of the talent tree. And at this point, I'm probably just going to put my talent into another Touch of Death amplifier. This is kind of just an AoE Touch of Death. So just a little bit more damage output in Mythic Plus. This is probably what I would be running at the moment. Overall, I think the Windwalker tree is pretty decent, but there's a lot of weirdly placed things. For example, Flying Serpent Kick. I'm not really sure why Flying Serpent Kick is in the Windwalker tree. This should probably just be moved over to the baseline Monk tree, in my opinion. Especially with all the mobility we have right now, I don't think it's necessary to waste a talent point on this when you could get literally anything down here. Especially in Mythic Plus. I think Touch of the Tiger Palm damage increase is kind of just useless. I don't think there's literally going to be any scenario where you want to be like, oh, let me take some Tiger Palm increased damage. No. And then this is just weirdly organized over here. I don't like this radius increase. Nobody cares about this at all. This is like a dead talent. You're forced to do this. Whether you like it or not, you're forced to have this. Unless you want to use 2 spenders in Touch of the Tiger. And then a lot of people talked about and mentioned Kiefer's. I don't think Kiefer's is going to be that strong. I think this should have just been a PvP talent. Rather than being a capstone. I feel like the only people that actually used Kiefer's were PvPers. Like, I don't think there was any situation we ever used this outside of PvP. And then obviously, you know, the whole Phaline Stomp thing is kind of just, it's just weird. I don't like the ability. If the boss moves, if you don't place your Phaline Stomp correctly, it's just completely dead. You just wasted your time using that ability. And then the last thing I'd like to see changed is Last Emperor's. I believe this ability could be fun but I think it's pretty much a dead ability. You're locking it behind Feline Stomp. If anything, you could probably move this up here right below Thunder Fist, and that'd be pretty cool. Another thing I want to see change about this is, you could use this while on the move. Being able to move and channel Crackling Jade Lightning would be pretty cool, especially during a fight that requires a lot of movement. I think it's definitely a cool ability, but I think the way it's positioned and the way it's tuned right now, you'll never take it. And then obviously there's some debate about, Fury of Zuen, Zuen's Bond, and whatever this not yet implemented talent's going to be. This entire bottom area could change depending on the tuning, but we'll just have to wait and see until that comes out. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Monk talent tree so far. Overall pretty good, a lot better than a lot of other classes when they were first released, and obviously Blizzard's going to continue to tune and change and balance this as alpha progresses. This entire talent tree might be completely different by the time, launch comes out. But anyways guys, that's my thoughts on the Monk talent trees. If you guys want some other opinions, you can go into the Monk Discord, Peak of Serenity. I believe there were some Peak of Serenity forums posted about it, just a quick discussion. I'll probably throw those down below and just link them. You can go check them out. I think overall though, everyone seems pretty happy about it. So anyways guys, that's all I got. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in another video before Dragonflight releases.